Hello everybody and thank you for accompanying me this time in this presentation. I'm so grateful for you and for this opportunity that you gave me to talk about this important issue. The title of this presentation, as you can see, is Video Games in Our Society. This time I want to tell you the ways that these things has affected us, our generation, our society, and our culture. In this presentation specifically, I want to talk about the way other person see these things. I mean, the many perspectives many people have about this. So let's start with this. First, I want to talk about a little bit about the legacy in our culture. If you knew, video games has been here for more than 40 years, since the famous Pong and Donkey Kong and Space Invaders. Those were the first video games to came in our lives, and since then the video games have evolved to many in many different ways. You see that many characters has become an iconic cultures in our lives, and we want to talk about this in just a few moments. But uh, besides the good things that those video games brought to us, the sellers, the developers want to sell more and more. And what's the thing, the specific things that the youth wants always is this: the video games with more reality. And the developers know that they want this, so they make video games about war and uprisings, the many wars in some cultures. And an example of this is a game called Revolution, when you can see how the problems were evolving in Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and in places like that. So because of this, you can see many guns, violence, murder, and stuff like that. So the people start to become worried about this, because the violence was too strong in those moments. So they blame always the video games, and uh, there's something curious about this, because one of the developers, the name was Kate Edwards, says, I know that my video games are violent, but I also know that the writers, the authors, know that some of their works are violent too. So the thing is, how you see the games, how is your perspective? The adults mostly believes that video games cause violence, and the youth, those who play, says the violence has nothing to do with this. And for an example, this meme says, if that doesn't make me surgeon, so why will this make me a murderer? And that's a good point. So what's the correct answer? It does bring violence, or it's just a game? So I remember a specific quote of this guy, one of my favorite developers. His name is Shigeru Miyamoto, and says, "Video games are bad for you. That's why they say about rock and roll." So as you can see, there's nothing wrong about this. And there was an special and a specific study about this, because the people were really concerned, and especially the parents want to know that if the violent video games, were there, uh, is really bad for their kids. So they made a study, and the study says that in 1995, the homicides and suicides in youth and stuff like that were like 71%. But in 2008, that percentage dropped, uh, in to 49%, and the sales of video games increased tremendously. So it really has nothing to do with the violence. It might have a little bit, but not as much as people think. Now that we talk about this, that there's nothing wrong with this, I want to remember you some of the iconic characters that became cultural icons too, like Mario Bros, Pac-Man and Sonic. Those video games, those characters are meant to bring us happiness and to remember you some of the good things that video games can bring to you in your life. Now, video games are not bad, and they are very good for you because you can develop some of these skills like goals in your life, because in video games it's one of the things that motivate you to do to accomplish goals in the games. They educate you because there are many life lessons there. Change your perspective, for example, in the people about the countries, races. uh, it helps you in your memory because you need to remember some things in order to pass the game. You learn faster and you make decisions more wisely. So the video games are really good for you, but always in a good measure. And I want to finish this presentation with one of my favorite developers too, which one time said, above all, video games are meant to be just one thing, fun, fun for everyone. So I want you to share, uh, to have my opinion too, that video games are not bad, that in our society it's good for them because the youth can could be possible to develop more skills and more sociability with others, and also to share their happiness, a little bit of happiness. And that's, as he says, that's the objective of them all, the biggest objective of them all, to have fun with everyone, with your family or your friends. So thank you for being here, and as in every game, this is the game over, and thank you for paying attention, and thank you for playing with me together. Thanks a lot.